Right, so a quadratic function is something that has a term with a variable to the second power, right? So you'll always see an x squared in a quadratic function, all right? Now, to be a quadratic function, it must have a quadratic term, otherwise it won't be a quadratic function. And then it may have a linear term or also a constant term. And we know that the graph of a quadratic function is always a parabola, right? So, okay, this here is the standard form of a quadratic equation, all right? So this is the standard form. So take a look. You've got a term with an x squared, you've got a term with an x, and you've got a term that has no variables. The term with the x squared, the coefficient of that, so the number next to the one with the x squared, that's your a. The number next to just the x is the b. The number that has no variable is c, okay? So for example, take a look at this function right underneath, right? What would the coefficient a equal to in here? Not x squared, it's the number in front of it, so it would be what? 1. Okay, if there's nothing there, it's a 1. What would b equal to? -4. And what would c equal to? 1. All right? Okay, so now we're going to graph this. But to graph, we're going to pick numbers, right? Of course, you're free to pick whichever numbers you want. However, we are going to learn in this lesson that there are certain numbers that are most useful when graphing a parabola. This one, because I'm the one who made up that function, I know exactly what numbers we should have picked, so we're just going to do that for now, and then afterwards I'm going to tell you how to pick the numbers for x, right? So for these, we're going to go real basic, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so let's plug in the 0 into all the x's. You get 0 squared minus 4 times 0 is 0 plus 1. What would that equal to? 1. So the coordinate becomes 0, 1. Okay, next I plug in a 1. 1 squared minus 4 times 1 plus 1. What would that equal? -2. So go ahead and have your calculators out and you can plug them in. So this will be 1, -2. Next, I plug in a 2. 2 squared minus 4 times 2 plus 1. Right? That's 4 minus 8 plus 1. How much would that be? -3. So 2, -3. Okay, let's plug in a 3. We get 3 squared minus 4 times 3 plus 1. And do you see how I'm going like step by step, not doing anything in my head really, right? Just writing down every step. 3 squared is 9. -4 times 3 is -12 plus 1. How much would that equal? -2. So 3, -2. Huh? The last one, let's see, 4 squared minus 4 times 4. Correct. It's 1. So 4, 1. So these are the points. Okay? By the way, do you notice any patterns here?
Yeah.
What patterns do you notice?
It goes from like 1, -2, then -3, then back to -2.
Right. Look at the y values. Look at the y value here, right? It's -3. And then the one right before and the one right after, what's the y value? -2. And then if I go 2 away, the y value is the same, 1, 1, right? Isn't that cool? So let's go ahead and graph this. So 2, -3. I'm gonna graph that purple one in the middle first. 2, -3. And then 1 on each side, right? So the red ones, 1, -2. 3, -2. and then 4, 1, 0, 1. Do you see how symmetric it all is? Right? So let's go ahead and graph the parabola. Remember, this is a parabola, so the tip has to be curved at the vertex, like this. And there you have it. That's your parabola, right? So now do you see why I picked these numbers, right? The one I picked, the middle one that I picked just happened to be the vertex. So I knew where the vertex was going to be, and I started from there, right? So let's take a look at the symmetry here. We already know that it has a symmetry. That vertical line that goes down through the vertex, this is called the axis of symmetry. Okay? So I could have, just graphed it using that. So from now on, we're going to find where the axis of symmetry is. And then from there, we're going to pick points on, like the left and the right side of it. Okay? All right. So now, how do we find axis of symmetry? For parabolas, the equation for the axis of symmetry is this. X equals negative b over 2a. And you do need to memorize this. Okay, so x equals negative b over 2a, right? Okay, so now, once you find the axis of symmetry, the x coordinate of the vertex is exactly the same thing. Okay, so now if you have the x coordinate of the vertex, how do you find the y coordinate of the vertex? What do you do? If you have the x coordinate of the vertex, how would you find the y? You just plug it in. All right? So, remember how we said there is an a, a b, and a c, right? Those are the coefficients. All right, so a and b are used to find the vertex, right? Negative b over 2a. C is also a special number. That number C happens to be the y-intercept. So to find the y-intercept, it's actually super easy. You just have to look at that number C. All right, any questions so far? Okay, can you sit up, please? Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and do this one. So we have our equation here. We're going to find the y-intercept. For the y-intercept, you just look at this number, right? And that is your y-intercept. So it's going to be 0, comma, that number 2. Okay? All right. For the axis of symmetry, we're going to do x equals negative b over 2a. Okay, so this is negative. What's the b here? Negative 4 over 2 times what's a? Negative 2. So this would be positive 4 over negative 4. How much is that? Negative 1. So the axis of symmetry will be x equals negative 1. Now, the axis of symmetry is a line. You have to have an equation, right? So x equals negative 1. Okay? Questions? All right. The x coordinate of the vertex is also negative 1. Same thing. Same exact thing. Okay, so now that we have the x coordinate of the vertex, I start with that number. I put that in the middle of my chart here, negative 1. And why don't we go ahead and graph the axis of symmetry here at x equals negative 1. Now, once you have the axis of symmetry, pick a side, either left or right. You're going to pick 2 numbers, just 2 numbers, either 2 from the left or 2 from the right. Me personally, I like smaller numbers myself. So here I'm going to choose 0 and 1. Okay? You could also choose negative 2 and negative 3. Yeah.
Would it be a solid line?
Well, No, it's an axis. So 'cause this is not less than or greater than or equal to, right? It's just equal. So it's just like, okay, so I'm going to pick 0 and I'm going to pick 1. Okay, so let's plug these three numbers in here, right? So take a look. -2 times -1 squared. You put it in parentheses. -1 squared. Minus 4 times -1 plus 2. Okay, so how much is this? Go ahead and plug it in and let me know what you find. Any other answers?
I got 1.
Okay, so let's see. One of you guys was right. So let's see.
I got 8 again.
-2 times how much is this? -1. Because we're squaring it, so it's 1.
Yeah, so then it's
Plus 4 plus 2. So that would be a 4. -4 times -1 is plus 4.
God.
Okay, so -1 comma 4. All right, when you put in 0, what do you get? 0, what do you get?
No, you get 2.
2. So 0 comma 2. When we put in 1, it's -2 times 1 squared minus 4 times 1 plus 2, -4. So I get 1 comma -4. Okay. Use the resources available to you, right? Sometimes when I'm not in the proper headspace, right, I make errors, I make mistakes. So I write down all my steps. Sometimes I need to plug things into the calculator, right? But please, 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 when you plug a number into the calculator, use the parentheses in order for you to get the right answer, because if you make a negative mistake there, the whole thing will be wrong. All right, so let's go ahead and plug this in, graph this. -1 comma 4, 0 comma 2, 1 -4. Now what do I do? This is only half a parabola. How do I get the other points? What do I do? Just mirror them on the other side like we did before. So 1 away, 1 away, 2 away, 2 away. Okay? Here and here. Okay? Questions? Okay, this next one, I actually, yeah, I'm going to give you a new one. I copied and pasted and then I forgot to change the equation. So f of x is equal to 2x squared minus 12x plus 9. We're just changing it. I just made up a new one. Okay? All right. For the y-intercept, there is 0 math. What do we do? What's the y-intercept? It's just 9. So I say 0 comma 9. There is 0 thinking involved there. Axis of symmetry. That's that lovely equation. X equals negative b over 2a. Negative. How much is b? Negative how much?
12.
Negative 12. Over 2 times 2. 12 over 4, how much? 3. So what do I write for axis of symmetry in my answer space? X equals 3. X corner of the vertex is 3. So in here, 3. Let's see where that is. Okay, so now, again, pick a side, either right or left. You have to just pick a side and commit to it. So what 2 numbers do you guys want to pick? 2 and 1. Those are the best ones. Like the smaller, the better. So 2 and 1, right? Let's go ahead and plug them in. All right, I'm going to give you about a minute to plug in these 3 numbers and get the values, right? On your mark, get set, go. Okay, good. Use your calculators, please. So when I plug those in, it'll be here, 3 comma negative 9, and then it's negative 7, and then it's negative 1, and I mirror them here, and that's the parabola that I get. Right? Yeah.
I was about the calculator.
Huh?
I was talking about the calculator.
Uh-huh.
So when you like press enter and like give your problem, how do you go back to it to like change like a number?
Go press the up button
Yeah.
once and then again. It highlights it, then press enter and it brings it back for you.
Okay.
Okay, so now take a look. In the very beginning, our parabola opened up, right? The first one that we did, it faces up. This one, it faces down, and then this one, it faces up. So do you guys remember what it was that made the parabola face up or face down?
Negative.
Negative and positive a values, right? So take a look. This coefficient of the x squared is positive 1, so this faces up. Here, the coefficient of the x squared is negative, so it faces down. This one is positive, so it faces up. That same a value that gave us the reflection before also works for this one. So, when a is positive, the parabola opens up like this, and this vertex over here is the very lowest point that the parabola reaches. We call that a minimum. When a is negative, this vertex is the highest point that the parabola reaches. We call that a maximum, right? So it all depends on the a, right? And I have it all laid out over here. So the vertex will be a minimum if a is positive, will be a maximum if a is negative. Now, what was the domain of all parabolas? All real numbers, right? We don't even have to think about that. When I ask you for domain, is it a parabola? All real numbers. No thinking involved. Okay. The range is going to be determined by the y-coordinate of the vertex. So for the range, you're always going to do either y is greater than or equal to the y-coordinate or y is less than or equal to. Okay? So take a look here. Okay? Okay, so what do you think for this first one? Do you think it has a minimum or do you think it has a maximum for this one?
Minimum.
Oh, which is it? So visualize it. This is a negative, it faces down, so it's going to have a maximum, right? Since it's negative, the parabola is going to look like this, so there is a maximum. Okay, let's find the maximum. So we got to find the vertex. Okay, x equals negative b over 2a. So this is what? Negative 8 over 2 times negative 1. Right? So how much is that? 8 over 2, 4. Okay, how am I going to find the y value? Plug it in. Y equals negative 4 squared plus 8 times 4. So this is negative 16 plus 32, 16. So I say the maximum is 4 comma 16. Okay? Next, it says to state the domain and range. So let's do that. What's the domain? All real numbers. Range. It's going to be y something that 16. Right? It's always going to be either y is less than or equal to or y is greater than or equal to. You're always going to use that number 16. So what do you think? If this is a maximum, the range is going to be y is less than or equal to 16. All right? So now you guys are going to do this one, mimicking exactly what I did here. All right? Go. Go, go, go. So first, find, the vertex, and then the y value, and so on. Negative. -2, correct. -1, comma, -2. When you plug this in, watch out for the negatives. They always get us into trouble, okay? Put parentheses and so on. So, and then it's going to be y is greater than or equal to -2. Okay. All right, go ahead and take out your calculators, please. Let's see if we can find all of this with a calculator. All right. So we're going to do, let's do doc B. Let's clear the calculator and go to the scratch pad. Click on the graph. We're going to type in this function here, 9.7 x squared minus 13x minus 9. Okay, I need to find, first of all, whether it has a max or a min, and then I need to find that vertex, right? But you see how I can't see it over here? So let's go to menu, analyze graph. I'm sorry, not analyze graph, I'm so sorry. Let's go to menu, window, and zoom. And instead of just zooming out, it makes everything so tiny. Why don't we go to window settings? And I'm going to keep pressing tab, the button above the blue button here, until I get to y min, because the minimum, my y value, I want to bring it further and further down. Let's make it like, I don't know, -20. See how that looks. Okay, that's pretty good. Okay. So I went to menu, window zoom, window settings, and then I press tab, tab, tab until I get to y min, and I just put in -20 there.
Menu, window settings.
Right. So now, let's see if we can find, okay, but go there, tab, 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 until you get there. For y min, put -20, and then press enter. So now we're ready to find the vertex of this. You notice I moved my equation away because it's just cluttered. So we go to menu, analyze graph. We're going to find what? A minimum. Minimum, right? So again, we get this vertical line. We're going to drag it to some point before, drag it to highlight this, and click, and that's the minimum.
How much of that do we write?
So what does it say? Round coordinates to the nearest hundredth. How many decimal places a hundredth? 2. So we're going to say that there is a minimum, and it's 0.67, -13.36. Okay, now in your calculator, press doc B, clear this, start again. This time you're going to plug in the next function. You're going to do it alone. The only thing I will tell you is, for the first one, -3/5, here's what I want you to do. in parentheses 3 over 5, and then continue. Okay, so go. 3 over 5x squared plus 4x minus 8. Do you see how I can totally see the vertex here? So I don't need to change anything about the windows, right? So I'm going to go to menu, analyze graph, maximum this time. Okay, and there's the maximum. So now that we are no longer in middle school, when you have a repeating decimal, we don't do the bar, right? That is so middle school, right? So we're just going to say there is a max 3.33 comma negative 1.33, right? Okay, so that's pretty much the homework. And
This was the homework?
I'm sorry, that's the lesson.
That's the lesson.